Every week, people ask me if I can help them get faster at racing. My response to them? Though really, in all honesty, it has come to my attention that a lot of my subscribers are interested in learning a bit more about dirt racing. Stemming from this realization is this video, plus any following videos I do in this series. This video is going to cover the absolute basics of dirt track racing. If you can already get around a dirt track, get out of here and go win some races, dummy. But in all seriousness though, the points I'm going to cover in this video I've seen asked about all the time, so it might be worth it to stick around. Everyone who's trying to race a dirt car should know how to set the car for a corner, how to control that throttle, and what the different surfaces of a dirt track look like and what they mean. So what is setting the car? If you're from anywhere else in the world, you've probably heard the term Scandinavian flick. This is a term popular in rally racing. Here in America, or at least where I'm from, we call it setting the car. Setting the car is basically like picking the angle at which the car is going to enter the corner. To effectively get through a corner, they have to do some sliding. There's not enough grip on the track to drive straight through a corner. And I mean, it's kinda hard to go straight through a corner because you have to, turn and go the other way most of the time. Anyway, break out your inner Ken block because we're gonna do some drifting. So, setting the car is basically moving the wheel to the left and bringing it back to the right pretty quick. Almost like you're gonna whip the rear end around. But you know what they say about whipping rear ends around. Now that you've whipped that rear end out to the right, the front of the car's aiming towards the center of the track, you're going to move your wheel back to the right and correct the slide. This is called countersteering. It's almost as if you're trying to spin the car out and then trying to save it. This is where the Scandinavian flick term comes in, because it's almost as if you're flicking the car to the left and kind of throwing the rear end around the corner. It's Scandinavian because most Scandinavians use this technique to get to work in the morning. As you bring the wheel back to the right, you can use different amounts of throttle and countersteer to make sure it points towards the exit and gets out straight. This is definitely the most basic thing I'm covering in this video, but it's really the most important. It's critical that you know how to do this before we go any farther. The full-bodied race cars like the late model and the stock car are a lot more forgiving, so if you're going to practice this, I'd probably use those. Also, honestly, the 305 sprint car is really easy to drive for a beginner, so you can also try using that, though it does a lot of the work for you with the wing. If you'd prefer to get killed, however, I'd suggest using the wingless sprint car. Now on to throttle control. If setting the car is the most important step in learning to race on dirt, throttle control is the most important step in being fast on dirt. Dirt is a tricky surface, and wheel spin is required to get around the corner. Too much wheel spin, however, doesn't get the power to the ground. Too little, and, well, you're just not going fast enough. Unfortunately, there's no one good answer as to how much throttle you should give the car through the corner, unless of course you're every single dirt fan that I've ever met. Then the answer is give it full throttle all the way around the track, no matter what. This lap, I'm going to use full throttle all the way around the track, and you can see what kind of lap time it leaves down. In this next lap, I'm using less than half throttle through the corner and picking it up slowly as I go out. Look at how big the difference is in lap time. The difference is nearly a second. Unfortunately, the track's surface is really what determines how much throttle you're going to be using. But remember, if it's a dry track, it's going to reward you to use less throttle. This brings us to our last topic, surfaces. The thing that sets dirt tracks apart from every other surface is how rapid they change. Take a look at the difference between a new and used pavement track versus a new and used dirt oval. Looks a little bit extreme, doesn't it? There are two main conditions a dirt track transfers between: a tacky track and a dry slick track. It usually happens in that order too. The tacky track has a matte finish and has a lot more grip than the slick track. It's usually a medium brown hue. The slick track has a shiny finish. When a track starts to slick off, the dirt becomes lighter in color. However, it soon gathers rubber from the cars on the track, and this gives it a black look. The slick is exactly what it sounds like. Cars have far less grip on a slick surface than they do on a tacky surface. The rule of thumb is to aim for whatever tacky surface is on the track. If you're in a stock car or a late model, and you're at anywhere that isn't Eldora, you're going to aim for the very inside of the track. No matter how much wear the track has, 9 times out of 10 there will be a little tacky strip at the inside of the track that you could put your left tires in and get grip around the corner. If you're in any of the open-wheeled cars, or the Legends car, things become a little bit more complicated. If you're in a sprint car, a lot of times, using the extreme high side is rewarded, though it is a dangerous thing to do. I'm going to stop myself here before I give you a full-fledged guide on any one of the cars, to keep this guide general. We will cover the specifics of each of the cars in a later video. So now you know how to set the car, control the throttle, and check the track's surface. How should you practice all this? Now let me recommend going into a practice session with a newer track, like 20% usage max. This will give you an idea of how to handle a car, and it'll be a bit more forgiving. Then, as you get more comfortable with driving the car, increase the track wear until you get a completely dry, slick track. Then you can practice aiming for different parts of the track so you can understand what parts of the track have grip and what parts don't. While you're practicing all this, don't even think about setup. There's enough changes you can make to each of these cars that I could make an entire video series on each of them, honestly. If you really can't help yourself, go into the setup tab and mouse over each of the changes and see what it tells you they do. The point is, while you're practicing this stuff, you should be more focused on the driving than understanding the setup. That comes later. Be a driver first. That concludes this part of my guide to dirt track racing. This has covered the absolute basics, the essentials, the fundamentals, if you will. If there's anything you're interested in seeing in the next video, let me know in the comments section. Thanks for watching this one, guys. This has been Joe Lusk, driver of the number 20 limited late model from up here in central Pennsylvania. Take care and happy racing.